communism, actually. But I've changed the terminology because some people freak out with the word communism. I call that unconditional care. And that is that when push comes to shove, particularly in an emergency or if you've got a small child, you care for it, you do stuff because it needs to be done. You don't do it because you're going to get a reward. It's just like, you know, the baby's screaming, you feed the baby. So that's unconditional care. It's love. It's absolutely, everything else sits on top of that. Then we have guardianship. So the unconditional care one is traditionally associated with motherhood. We're not talking about gender politics here, but traditionally it is. The guardianship function is deciding who we are, what, you know, in this family, what is acceptable behavior, and traditionally, that is a role of fatherhood. And we'll look at the diagram in a minute to sort of put this together. Then there's what I call conditioned hierarchy. And conditioned hierarchies are like, I just, you know, the alarm rings in the morning, I get up and I go to work. When I commute, I'm like a kind of robot. You sort of, you know, you just do it. When you drive your car, you don't consciously think about what you're doing. You are following a set of rules that you have absorbed from passing your driving test. So you're on a kind of autopilot, and that's conditioned hierarchy. And Graeber calls it hierarchy. He also uses the term, he hasn't got the guardianship one separated. The exchange one is classic free market economics. I've got something, you've got something I would like, let's do a deal. And there isn't a power relation there. Nobody's playing power games. We're on an equal level playing field from the point of view of power. But I've got something that you would like, you've got something that I would like, let's do a deal. And Graeber's got that one. He calls it exchange. The last one, which I think is really interesting, which he hasn't got, is what I call learning networks. And learning networks are the kind of organ of social evolution because they are where innovation comes from. And I can derive those from Beer's viable system model, but I haven't got time to talk about that. It's in the paper. But it's also derivable. So here's the diagram. It's also derivable from, say, anthropology, social psychology, lots of stuff that's been researched, behavioral economics. So I've created this diagram to try and capture as many dimensions as I can of these moral frameworks and how they apply to life. So this is really using them in terms of life in a developed society. This is not always going to come out the same, but the typical levels of recursion. One of the things about this is the idea of systems being nested inside bigger systems, like your heart's in your chest. It's viable within its environment. I'm here inside my skin. I'm also a member of a family. And I'm also a member of a workplace. And I'm also a member of a bigger society. So we have these three levels of recursion of... I should be able to... Yes, here we go. So I can sort of point at this thing. Technology is great, isn't it? So if we look at the thing down here on this level, we are looking at the personal sphere. So over here, this is your if I can point in the right place. I'm not very good at this. I'm not very good driving it. Yeah. So this is your motherhood and love section. This is your fatherhood. Would be, there you go, there. Fatherhood identity, establishing identity. In the conditioned hierarchy one at the personal level, this one here is very much authoritarian parent and child relationships, where I've missed it again. I'm trying to point. I'm not very good at this, am I? I'm trying to point to that one. The one, there, yes.
Why don't you just point it with a finger?
Yeah, that one. It's easier, isn't it? Technology hell, you know. Yeah, the authoritarian. So this is really authoritarian parent and child, very, punitive, saying, Johnny, behave yourself or you get a slap round the ear. Don't argue with your dad. That kind of stuff. This one is much more, this exchange one is much more about, parents negotiating with each other who's going to do the washing up, who's going to do the childcare. There isn't, one of them hopefully has not got more power than the other in a more modern society than in traditional society. So, and siblings sawing out, brothers and sisters arguing about who's going to do what, that kind of stuff. Friends down the pub together, enjoying each other's company, but they're not trying to play power games or something like that. The learning network one is much more about nurturing relationships, because the thing about the learning thing is, if I want to learn from you, I have to shut up and listen to you while you say something to me, because I need to learn it. I am effectively subservient to you when I need to learn something from you. But if the learning thing takes place successfully, we become peers. So the hierarchy relationship evaporates if it's a success. So there isn't a fixed authority structure. It's dynamic. At the school...
Running more or less out of time. But
okay. So at the work level, we have individual creativity. People create stuff just because they love creating it. Guardianship is about deciding on identity. It's like being the chairman or the non-exec directors of a company or whatever. Conditioned hierarchy is about, I'm the boss, you shut up and do what you're told. Bullying at work. Exchange is peer-to-peer stuff. And learning networks is apprenticeships, mentoring, good management that is nurturing the people that are being managed. At the public level, we're looking at social services and emergency services, so unconditional care. The guardianship stuff is kind of subtle. It's about defense of the realm, monarchy, presidency, religion. Who are we? In the conditioned hierarchy, we are looking at I'm a Brahmin, you are an untouchable, it's built into the universe, there's nothing you can do about it, just accept it, it's real. Exchange is the world of commerce, free markets. Learning networks is education and real political participation. Okay? So my contention, I'm coming to an end here, so you won't have to put up with me too much longer. How do I get out of this thing now? There we go. So if we think about normal forms of money, they kind of reflect some of these structures, but not very well. So government bonds were originally invented in Florence to pay for mercenary armies to stop Florence from being invaded by its neighbours. So that's guardian money. And right up to the 1930s, government expenditure in a developed society was mostly for warfare. So it's defence of the realm. These days, a lot of it's for social care, but nobody's bothered to separate this into two different sorts of money. And it would make sense to do so. So our contention is that we've got a sort of vague architecture of different forms of money, but it isn't properly designed. And if we could analyze the forms of money in terms of these moral modalities, we could do better. And I will contend that a lot of the work that's being done in complementary currencies is an attempt to build a more robust financial system that more accurately reflects all these different values that we care about. The ones we've got at the moment don't do that. And that's the job that we're all trying to do, I think. So basically, the key question is if this moral modalities framework accurately reflects the range of our human values, or don't we need to form forms of money for all those modalities? And if so, what would they look like? And that's how the job is to do the design work on it if this makes sense. And I think that's what we're participating in.
We are eating into question time now.
Well, that's fine. So, okay, questions? A little bit about technology. I did want to say, actually, that in terms of technical architecture, I haven't got a lot of time for this, but we think that open monies technology is quite interesting, possibly combined with blockchains like Ethereum and stuff like that. But we're very interested in a thing called the Metacurrency Project and Scepter, because we feel that that is an architecture that is the next thing after the hoo-ha about blockchains like Ethereum. We think that is going to be the future one that's really, really interesting. But that's it. That's the end of the session. So, okay, there we go.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Any questions?
If there are no questions, I'd just like to add something.
She was raising.
I just have a request, which is that you stay for the next session, which is mine, where I think we are doing some design that applies the moral modalities framework.
Cool. Thank you.
So that it gets recorded.
When we focused upon the moral modalities framework because this, for us, was the new element.